The Historical Society of Beverly Hills gives a great deal to the community, but the community gives a great deal to the Historical Society. And what we do is to try to recreate some of the things that happened in the past for today's people to know about, so that they can see and hear and feel, perhaps, the flavor of what used to be. The new library will be twice the size, more than twice the size of the present one. And because that's happening, we'll have room there for the library to house what we are able to preserve and collect.
I think the community benefits from today's event because it's creating an awareness. I've been talking to a lot of the people coming through the tour. It's their first time here. And in most of the homes are all private residences. So they're not open to the public. This is quite an unusual experience. You can view the homes just driving up the streets, but you really don't know the history. You're really creating an awareness.
All four of the homes today are representative of different styles. One is a Craftsman style, which is representative of a style that's pretty unique to California. The style itself started in England in the 1800s and was brought here to New York City. Or New York State. It began to be evolved and was really developed in Southern California because it met with the climate so well, in particular by the Green and Green brothers, Charles and Henry Green. The other three houses are all of the revival period. And the revival style is one where the people were looking back to their history for a sense of where they were in the present. So we find that there's a Mediterranean revival house on the tour today. We have a Dutch revival house on the tour today. And then a Mediterranean villa, which is the Harold Lloyd estate that we're on today.
People generally don't know, what the streets are named for. How did the city get planned? Why are the streets crooked? Why is it part of a master plan? These things, I think, are important to people. And even the history, not so much the Hollywood homes of who lived where, but who founded the city and who started the city and who's protected the city over the years. Like the day that the movie people all came out and went door to door and saved us from being part of LA. I think those are very important historical times. The Historical Society, I think, has already become a vital organization in the city. With the number of members that we have, more than 200, with our first newsletter, and now with this very successful home tour, our second newsletter will come out soon. We hope to publish a journal. With the items that have been contributed already, I think we've given a great deal of value to our organization and to our community.
Harold Lloyd was considered by many as one of the finest comedians of the silent film era. His on-screen successes afforded him a comfortable lifestyle, one which enabled him to build this palatial estate. A set of French doors open onto a small courtyard, containing an open-air garden and one of the original, exquisitely crafted fountains. Lloyd modeled his estate after a villa he visited in Florence, and managed successfully to recreate the architectural style and ambiance of that Italian villa. Green Acres in its early history boasted 12 formal gardens, each of which was given a particular theme. On these beautifully landscaped grounds, there was once a 9-hole golf course, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a tennis court, and even an 800-foot-long canoe pond. Most of these recreational facilities were lost in the subdivision of the property following Harold Lloyd's death. But we can imagine him with his guest enjoying the pool, the lake, or the golf course on any warm summer afternoon. Lloyd married his leading lady, Mildred Davis, and together they raised 3 children. He built for them this cottage playhouse complete with electricity and running water. It had its own garden, wishing well, and miniature stables for the family ponies. Originally, the house itself had 44 rooms, 26 bathrooms, and a total of 48,000 square feet. The garden room receives a great amount of sunlight, opening on one side to the courtyard and on the other to the gardens. The walls and ceiling are hand-painted with intricate patterns of birds, leaves, and colored flowers. The living room, which still functions as a projection room, is beautifully constructed, adorned with a 40-rank pipe organ, art glass lamps by Tiffany, and furniture representative of several centuries, from the Louis XV cockfighting chairs to the Art Nouveau pieces by the great master Carlo Bigatti, umbrellaed under a gold leaf coppered ceiling. The Harold Lloyd Greenacres estate truly symbolizes a great period in history and one man's desire to make his dream come true. This stately residence, built in 1915, is of the Italianate Revival style and can be identified by its elaborate archways, moldings, corbels, leaded windows, and hand-painted stained glass. Looking at the front of the house, we are immediately drawn to the beauty of the elaborate castings that surround the doorway. The detail is typical of the grand Italian villas of the Mediterranean countryside. It is made of diatomaceous earth, giving it a marbleized appearance in rich hues of brown and buff. The rather large front door is carved with the crest of griffins and has a dark and rich appearance. As we go inside, we notice the beautiful cast archways that surround the main doorways of the entry hall. These moldings are decorated with crest of the eagle, the griffin, and the fleur-de-lis, and are crafted in a distinct Baroque style. The ceiling is intricately hand-painted, the artist having used oil on canvas to achieve the desired look. The figures are those of Hermes and Pan and are located at opposite ends of the room. The hand-painted glass windows are typically found in this revival style. On the far wall of the spacious living room is a rather unique fireplace, cast of diatomaceous earth and depicting scenes of medieval life. The ceiling beams and a corbel look very much like carved wood, but in actuality are plaster cast. The sconces are solid brass and original to the house. This room, like many others, is quite large and wonderfully crafted. Bordered on one side by a full-length glass mirror and on the other side by a row of windows looking out onto the gardens, the dining room is perhaps the most brilliantly lit room in the house. Its ceiling, like many of the other rooms, is hand-painted, in this case with figures of satyrs and cupids. Through the leaded glass windows of the garden room, we are given another lovely view of the grounds outside. The billiard room was originally used for the ballroom, as its maple floors were ideal for dancing. The fireplace mantel features characters from an ancient Roman play. The mantel is painted, creating an authentic marble effect. The gardens outside feature a lovely pond with an Italian sculpture fountain, evergreen pear and pittosporum trees. Built in a time when this area was covered with fields of beets, this house provides us with a vital link to our past. Built in 1913, this residence is of the Craftsman style, a movement begun in England in the mid-1800s and later brought to America, where it was developed by the architects Charles and Henry Green. The architectural concept combines the works of various craftspeople to create one complete design showcase. Looking at the exterior of the house, we notice a dominant characteristic of this Craftsman style, the gently sloping roof lines. Throughout this home is an extensive collection of European and American art. This fireplace, which divides the den and library, has a unique inlay of finished tiles. The andirons and fender are early American, and the copper pot used for storing water in the winter comes from Sweden. A 17th century Belgian clock and a Persian lamp from Baghdad can be found in the living room along with many other art pieces. The present owner's love for antiques is evident as we walk through these beautifully crafted rooms. In the dining room is an early American pine table, A gypsy water jug rests atop a dry sink while copies of Etruscan art adorn the walls. This residence is a celebration of history and the many talents who helped to create it. This elegant mansion of the Dutch Revival style was built by the silent film great Charles Ray in 1916. It has changed ownership 3 times and each new owner has enhanced its original beauty. As we enter this magnificent residence, we make our way directly across a giant checkerboard floor of black and white marble. The glass-paneled iron grille door, originally intended as an exit, has been kept intact and stays open for show. Charles Ray shared his love for music with his guests performing recitals and concerts here in the living room. The far end of the room was usually set aside as the conservatory. Beautifully decorated with its European mirrors and crystal sconces, the living room provided the perfect atmosphere in which guests could relax to frequently played melodies. The mirror above the fireplace, gilded and bordered by carved wood, is flanked on either side by a pair of crystal sconces that seem to stand at attention. Although it was built at a later date than the original construction, the garden room is indeed a very special addition. With its many windows opening out onto the grounds, it contributes in its own special way to the beauty and magnificence of this home. The windows are framed by a lacework of wrought iron and with the skylight allowing the sunlight and with it a real warmth and cheerfulness. The oval room is most unusual in its design, for not only is the paneling and molding actually carved to conform to the shape of the room, but the windows surrounding the room are actually made of curved glass, impossible to replace today. From this room we have a beautiful view of the gardens outside. We celebrate this early Dutch revival's beauty and majesty as we do all cherished antiques.